Hello, hello, hello. We are getting things started. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. Go ahead and say hi in the chat. I'm watching for the notifications to come through so we can get things started as everybody is being notified. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day. So, hello, hello, hello. Come on in. Hello, Joey. How are you doing today? It's good to see you. I'm trying to get everything in order. I'm running just a moment late today. It's been a little bit of a crazy day, technology-wise. So much fun. No, Birdie, you don't get to be a part of this one. She thinks she has to be the star of every show. And that's just not true. So, yeah. Hello, KS. It is lovely to see you. Life is good for me. How is life for you? Thank you. Hello, Womanopolis. Hello, Sabyasachi. It is lovely to see you. How is everyone doing? There we go. I'm about to get things started here. Okay, there we go. Let me copy that and get that in place. Fresh Submissive saying hello. Here in South Florida. Oh, wow. So I don't know if you know, but I'm in Raleigh, and I am supposed to fly out tomorrow evening to Albany to teach some classes. And I am watching to see if Ian is going to let me. So, yeah, super exciting. Gotta love this, right? Okay. Let us go ahead and get this show on the road. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Heather. Most people call me Nookie. In addition to living my amazing personal life, I write books, teach classes, run workshops like this one, all about love, sex, romance, and kink for people of all genders, relationship statuses, orientations, and more. I have personally always been curious and adventurous when it comes to sex. And luckily, I've had partners who've been the same. So I've explored many facets of sexuality and relationships in loving and creative ways. All of my experiences thus far have led me to the belief that boundaries are the key to not only saving ourselves, but our relationships. They are what take us from getting by or merely average to healthy, loving, strong, and fan-fucking-tastic. So let's get started. I'm going to kick us off with an introduction to my book and how I'm writing it. Let me pop this in here. So I am, for those of you who don't know, I'm writing my new book, Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck, which is the working title, right now. And you can get access to the chapters as I write and post them by pre-registering for my Take No Shit workshop beginning Monday, October 17th. I have popped the link into the chat, and there it is on the screen. So today we are talking about the intersection of boundaries and trust. So let's talk about trust. I'd love to see like a show of hands, a yes or a no in the chat. Would you say, you personally, right this moment, would you say that you are a trusting person? Yes or no? Let's talk about that. Are you a trusting person? Joey says no. Ashley says yes, way too much. Womanopolis says absolutely yes. Okay, so we'll watch some more answers to come in. But so the next question is, do you feel like where you are now with trust is healthy for you and your potential, either the relationships you have now or the potential relationships you're moving towards? Would you say your current level of trust is healthy for you now, either in current relationships or in relationships you're moving forward? So, yes, I like where I'm at. No, I think I could have healthier trust. Joey says, I'm working on that. Roger says, not trusting, but used to be. Tisha says, no, not trusting. Roger says, no, it's not healthy. Tisha says, no, it's not healthy. Now, Tisha, could you just double check with me? Let me know if I'm pronouncing your name properly. Ashley, nope, it's fucked my life up being too trusting. Womanopolis says, yes, but I become an easy victim. So therein lies our conundrum, right? So it seems like we're all stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either we trust people, and then as Womanopolis says, I become an easy victim. Either we trust people and we make a target of ourselves, right? Or we don't trust and it becomes a wall to keep people out. Tisha, okay, excellent. So those are the two extremes, right? We don't trust people, we have a wall that keeps people out, or we do trust people and then they can take advantage of us. Ooh, Joey says, or self-fulfilling prophecy. Absolutely, right? Because when we don't trust people, we look at them through a lens of distrust. Now, here's a question, because that is a great answer. Here's a question for the chat. Have you ever been in a relationship where somebody didn't trust you and they kept being suspicious and essentially punishing you for something that you weren't doing and probably hadn't ever considered doing? And it made you feel like, well, hey, if I'm already being punished for this, I might as well do this. Or if I'm going to get punished for something I'm not doing, I might as well relax a little bit over here or those standards over there because I can't win. Right? Ashley says no, thankfully. Joey says, ugh, yes, fuck it all. Yes. Yeah, so it's really, really challenging when we are in these relationships. And the other challenge is that sometimes when we don't trust people, we push them into patterns of behavior. Now, let me be clear. Let me be very clear. Not trusting somebody does not make them behave in a particular way. Human nature, though, means that often humans respond to distrust when they have not earned it in really like similar ways. And sometimes that means that they're going to be angry, they're going to be rude, and they're probably going to go out there and be distrustful because you don't trust them. Or they're just going to leave you. And oftentimes that's where the stem of distrust is, right? I don't trust you to stick around. So I'm constantly, are you going to stick around? Are you going to stick around? You're trying to leave me. You're trying to leave me. And eventually they're just like, I can't deal with this anymore. I'm outies. And there you go. Self-fulfilling prophecy, right? And as Joey Tova says, that kind of distrust removes the motivation to live up to a good opinion. Now, my assistant Celine is here with me today, just right on the other end of the couch with the cat. And she and I have this conversation regularly about providing people the opportunity to live up to our standards. So, how do we balance all of this out? It's a challenge for sure. So, with healthy boundaries, we are better able to trust, and we are better able to trust. And I'm going to put that up on the screen. Trust versus trust. Okay. So what do I mean by this? A basic level of trust. So all of you trust in very small letters the people that you're in relationships to behave in certain ways, right? So you are lowercase trusting somebody that you let sleep over at your house not to axe murder you in your sleep, right? Low key trust. People consider that, a minor expectation of humanity. Large trust, big trust, the kind of trust where you trust someone with your life. Or when somebody says something hurtful, you don't immediately react in hurt and pain because remember, we talked about this Tuesday, for a fact that they are not intending to hurt you, right? That's capital Trust, trust. Okay. Womanopolis says, when you don't trust, there is protection, but bad news, there is loneliness. That's my opinion. Well, so here's the challenge that I offer to those of you who are out there. When you don't trust, is there really protection even? Because we still continue going into relationships. And as we just talked about, not trusting is sometimes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you're still in a relationship oftentimes, and you're still getting hurt, and you're still having these horrible, difficult conversations. So yeah, sure, there's some protection, but that protection is a double-edged sword. As you said, loneliness, definitely an issue. KS said that. So let's begin with basic trust. Lowercase trust. Basic trust. the way I'm going to define it for the purposes of this discussion is to believe or act like you believe that someone is trustworthy until they give you proof that they are not. Trust. Lowercase trust. This is trust. It is trust that they will not seriously harm you, like axe murder you in your sleep, during whatever interactions you have. Right? Are you with me on this one? Roger says, it's funny. I trust my ex with my life, but not my heart. So this is also a conversation that Celine and I have had a lot, right? To me, that's not trust. It's essentially that they have proven to you that there are certain things that they'll do and certain things they won't do. And you have a pretty good idea what those are. Doesn't mean you trust them. If you cannot trust somebody with your heart, do you really trust them? Right? Tisha says, when someone betrays that trust, it hurts so very much. Absolutely, it does. But we've got a way to work through this. So, Joey said, like predictability. Yes. Being able to predict somebody's actions based on certain input is not trust. I mean, sure, you could say, I trust that if I say this shitty thing, they're going to get angry. That's really stretching the definition of trust, don't you think? Like, it's not trusting them. It's being able to predict their behaviors. Thank you so much for saying that. Womanopolis, if I told you that I've been successful in my relationships, would you trust me? So that's a good question. And that comes to the heart of what we're talking about right now. If you tell me that you've been successful in your relationships, I'm going to believe you. However, I don't know your definition of success. I don't know what that means to you. I don't know how close it is to my definition of success. But what I will do, because I don't know you at all, is I will trust that if you say something like that to me in all seriousness, that you mean it. Until I have proof to the contrary. And we're going to talk about how this works and why this works. KS says, too much trust can make you fall victim to a negative situation. Yes. And oftentimes people trust because not because they actually trust, but because they don't have the energy to distrust. They don't have the boundaries. You knew I was going to get there eventually. They don't have the boundaries to know where to pause people or where their lines are. Right? So they trust because they want to feel like they're in a relationship where they can be trusting. Even though they know they've not done everything it takes to actually trust somebody. You with me on that? Sabyasachi says, the thing about betrayal and trust is that it comes from someone who I know very personally. I mean, somebody you don't know or somebody you don't trust can't really betray you, right? They're just being your average dick. In order for somebody to betray you, you have to trust them. And that is rough. And that does hurt a lot, a lot, a lot. I mean, you were here last week when I talked about the betrayal of my trust in my relationship. Prior to that relationship, uh, S, I'll keep the name anonymous to protect the not so innocent. S was the first person who ever asked me to marry him. And I said yes. And while we were engaged, I moved to New York City ahead of him to get settled because I had just gotten a job that would be a benefit to us and our relationship and our growing plans for the future. And while I was in New York City, he was supposed to follow me 4 months later. While I was in New York City, he went out of town. He traveled to visit some old friends and ended up having several affairs. And told me that I asked too much of him. So obviously, yes, betrayal can really only happen if they have your trust. Yeah. Joey says, easier to think, whatever, it doesn't matter, but that's depression brain. Absolutely. Ashley, that's me, definitely. I think once I get into a relationship, I remove all my boundaries. And I think some people feel, aha, I can use this. Oh, just bing, right there. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Because right there, you are hitting the nail on the head. It's what we've been taught, though. Again, I don't know if you were around for the live when I talked about it's not your fault, right? It is not your fault that you don't have strong boundaries. We're not modeled good boundaries. We're not taught good boundaries. In fact, we're often taught the opposite. We are taught that unless we make ourselves smaller, unless we make a tinier footprint of ourselves on other people's lives, unless we make ourselves useful or desirable or whatever it is, that people will not love us. If we set boundaries, if we are difficult, people will not love us. So you get into a relationship and woo, there goes the boundaries. Bye-bye. It's a hope and a prayer, and it almost always spells disaster. And it's not, let me be clear. You said some people feel, aha, I can use this. Let me be clear. It's not necessarily that. It's not that people are all of a sudden like, oh, I'm going to manipulate and use this person and suck them dry. It's that they were also taught that in love, in relationships, it's either control somebody or be controlled. And this isn't conscious. It's just how people do. And if you don't have any boundaries, if you never set up the boundaries, people aren't even going to know that they're tromping all over the land of you. Right? That's important. Okay, so you don't really have to capital trust people when you get into relationships with them to start. Because if you start with that basic level of trust, if you believe or you act like you believe that someone is trustworthy until they give you proof that they are not, and if you have strong boundaries, as soon as they begin to brush up against one of those, a couple of things will happen. One, you'll be on alert. Oh, hey, that's a boundary. Two, hopefully, you'll communicate that to them. Not, hey, that's a boundary, but I really appreciate it when you call me by my full name, Heather. I hate it when people call me Heath. Yeah, I actually had that conversation with a friend of mine, I think when I was like 8 or something like that. And we battled it out. And after a while, I just stopped responding, completely ignoring him when he called me Heath. He got the picture. But if your potential romantic partners or your current romantic partners are not 100% gracious when you state your boundary or when you enforce it, then you know what you can expect from your relationship with them, right? Super easy. And maybe, okay, super simple. Super simple. Not necessarily super easy. Are you with me on that one? Womanopolis says, people always say they did well in intimacy and sex, never failures, never sexual dysfunction. I once did a live on YouTube on sexual difficulties and they all did well. Yeah, so I have had plenty of failures. I've not actually had personally sexual dysfunction, although I've had partners who have had sexual dysfunction. But no, I've had plenty of failures. In fact, my failures, I would say, are how and why I learned enough to be where I am today, to have the amazing relationship that I have. KS says, oops, I accidentally hit Ashley. My ex basically ran me into the ground despite me being ill. Then when I was burned out and very unwell, he dumped me because my illness, both mental and physical, was annoying and I couldn't look after his dog. Wow. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And now I'm not judging the situation. I don't know the situation. I'm going to put up a couple of hypotheticals out there because I've known people who have gotten into similar situations. Again, Ashley, this is not you. I am not projecting anything onto you. I've known people who've gotten into similar situations who, from the beginning of their relationship, saw the signs that that person was not compassionate or kind, and they kept going with the relationship, right? Figuring that if this person falls in love, or if they say they're in love, they will act differently, right? Could have seen it coming. I've also known some people who are very good at masking illnesses in order to continue pleasing others until it gets to be too much and they break down. Like, for example, my own partner is really good at putting his own needs aside in order to fulfill the needs of others. And he did this over and over and over again in relationships. And then when he finally said, I need more, His relationship partners in those other relationships were like, wait a minute, what do you mean you need more? That's never been part of the deal. What are you talking about? This is insane. No, I'm not going to do that. You've been just fine for 5 years. Why would that makes no sense? He had trained them to be a particular way with him and to expect particular things from him. Yeah. Again, none of this is related to you specifically, Ashley. I am just throwing some ideas out there for other people who might end up watching this and having situations that they might be able to relate to those things. So, Sabyasachi says, what's life without failures? Absolutely. Fail. Fail as often as possible because that's going to help you get to better wins. Oh, Womanopolis said, if you did a live about male sexuality, 100 guys would tell you they never had erectile dysfunction. That's actually not true in my experience. I find that men tend to be very honest with me about such things. If I don't, what boundaries are, how do I start to implement? So KS, you have joined the live right, correct? I think you have. So that's what I would do is I would suggest that you start really focusing in on the live right and making sure that you understand what boundaries are and you do that deep dive and you follow through on boundaries that you start learning about and maybe implementing some of the examples for yourself. Ashley, nail on the head, nail on the absolute head. I saw the signs and I'm great at masking. Awesome. Okay. So I'm still sorry it happened to you. I will tell you this, and I will repeat this over and over and over until I am blue in the face. Somebody being a jerk to you, that's their fault, right? They don't have to be a jerk, right? They could be kind. That said, you have, if you choose to take it, the responsibility to yourself to set and maintain healthy boundaries to protect you as you move forward into the future. And if you are willing to take that responsibility on, you will find that standing up for yourself and being clear about what your wants and needs will become easier and will just make sense. You won't put yourself in the position where you see signs and you ignore them, or where you mask who you are or how you feel in order to maintain a relationship that isn't even really working. Yeah. Sabyasachi says boundaries, trust does help me understand now about toxic relationships. Okay, so toxic relationships, sure. So here's the issue. I said, if you're talking to a partner and you set a boundary, right? And they are not 100% gracious when you set or enforce your boundary, then get rid of them, right? Super simple. What if they're good people, though? What if they're good people? What if somebody's a good person? And I mean, it's just, my boundary is just, they don't understand it. They're not used to it. I mean, they're generally trustworthy. Doesn't matter. Bupkis means diddly squat. Good people are everywhere. You're a good person, right? I'm a good person. Does that mean that we haven't done shitty things to people? Does it mean that in a relationship with somebody, we're going to be a good fit? We're going to be able to honor every single one of their boundaries, happy and smiling? No, not at all. It doesn't matter if someone is a good person. What matters is, are they compatible with your boundaries? Because if they push back on your boundaries, if they don't honor your boundaries, if they ridicule, heaven forbid, but if they ridicule your boundaries, you cannot trust them to be a good fit for you or to collaborate on creating a relationship of any kind that honors your boundaries and your autonomy. So let them go on their merry way. This basic kind of everyday trust makes life easier because it's exhausting. It's fucking exhausting to be constantly on guard, to be constantly looking for when they're going to do this or maybe they're going to do that. All you need to do is start building your boundaries. Build your boundaries. Learn how to enforce them. Then you can relax that guard in most mundane situations, 99.9% of your daily life, allowing you to enjoy freedom and possibilities that come into your life and humans that come into your life. You can give more benefit of the doubt. You can be friendlier. You can have more engagements and experiences. Do you understand what are you picking up what I'm laying down here? KS says, man, once say people try to put their issues on you. Oh, people. So how many times have you heard, you made me fill in the blank? How many times have you heard that? Did you really make them? No. They have a choice. They always have a choice. And you, you always have a choice as well. That's what's so powerful about all of this. Ashley, they may be a good person, but they're not the right good person for you. 100%. 100%. And that's the key, isn't it? It doesn't matter how good they are. It doesn't matter, what their stats are on paper. If you cannot, and this is capital, trust them to honor your boundaries, you can't trust them at all. You can't trust them at all. Are you willing? Again, asking the chat, are you willing to be in a relationship with someone who, and there's going to be two parts to this. One, does not honor and respect your boundaries. Two, does not look for ways to fulfill you and make you happy. Are you willing to be in that kind of relationship? Someone who doesn't honor your boundaries and someone who doesn't look for ways to fulfill you and make you happy. Because to me, those are kind of the same thing. Because boundaries are not just the things you say, I will not allow this. Boundaries are also the things that say, I require this. It's like the boundaries of you are like the boundaries of a country or the boundaries of a state or the boundaries of a city. There are laws that say you can't do this, and there are laws that say you have to do that, right? And within those boundaries, those are the laws. If someone wants to make you happy, if someone wants to fill you up, then they will naturally honor and appreciate your boundaries. Womanopolis says, what about people that try to control you, testing your boundaries? They can fuck off. Just like that. See how simple that is? Don't allow yourself to be controlled. And the corollary to that is also don't try to control others. That's tough. That's really tough because we can often say, oh, I don't like it when people do that. But when it's turned around, sometimes it's really hard to understand their point of view when it's a boundary that you don't get. It's pretty important there. The key that I think I would really love to get across to you in this discussion is that people tend to think trust is what others do. And it's not most of it. Maybe a small fraction of it, 1%, 5%, 10% is what people do. The actions that they take, their words, or their truths. And that's trust with a capital T. And it's usually built up only over time because it takes a long time to get all of those actions in place. They have to honor your boundaries over and over and over again, even when honoring your boundaries sucks for them or doesn't get them something they want, right? That takes time. But the rest of it, whether it's 90% or 95% or 99%, that's all me. Or rather, that's all you. That's basic trust. And what that is, what that lowercase trust is trust in yourself and your ability to handle whatever someone offers you in whatever relationship you create with them. And when you don't trust, you don't believe you can take what they might throw at you. Your worry is not so much their behavior calling you a name, for example, but your imaginable reaction to their behavior, your possible hurt, your feelings of betrayal, and your potential heartbreak. So, lack of trust is a deep, dark mirror of your greatest relationship fears. Whereas basic trust, the biggest part of trust is knowing who you are, what you want and need out of relationships and out of life, and having faith in your own ability to survive and thrive through life, regardless of this person or that person. Because then you can say to yourself, I'm going to trust them or act as if I trust them until they give me proof that they don't deserve it. Human relationships aren't based on control, though. Could you rephrase that? Are you asking me if human relationships are based on control? Because no. Human relationships are absolutely not necessarily based on control. And if you're basing your relationships on whether or not you control or be controlled, you're not going to have good relationships. You're not going to have trust. You're not going to have deep, passionate love. And you're going to wear away at each other and your potential over years. Now, if I got that question wrong, let me know. Joey, they can validate your trust, but only we can create it. Absolutely. Yeah. Ashley, what if your boundaries are direct opposites? For example, you require cuddles, but they don't like cuddles. You know what I'm going to say to that, right? I'm going to say you're not a good fit. I mean, if you need, like if touch is one of your love languages and they can't stand to do that kind of touch, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. Unless potentially you're non-monogamous and you can get that touch from other people in other ways in an ethical fashion. But if you're monogamous and you have that much of a mismatch in your love language and what you require in a relationship, that sounds like a lot of pain and heartache. Roger says, telling someone to fuck off sounds easy. However, it's made more difficult when you have kids because you have more to think about than just her or him. 100%. Absolutely no doubt. That said, you can, like where you are right now, you are co-parenting, but you are not together, correct? So you can set your boundaries on how somebody is allowed to interact in your life. And moving forward, you can choose whether or not to accept that behavior from anyone else. If you are currently in a relationship and you have children, you have a long-term relationship, it's a tough choice to make. A lot of studies now say that kids are actually better off with parents who are divorced, who go on to find their own happiness separately, than they are with parents in a relationship where they are unhappy together. And if you're radically unhappy and they're probably also unhappy because you're not fitting each other, it's a valid decision to make that change. Or to have the conversation, maybe get the therapy on how to make a change together to make it better and livable. Womanopolis. Yeah, I think someone wants to manipulate the other one at some point. Is that the kind of relationship you want? Not for me. Thanks. No thanks. No. I reject that as the premise for a relationship. You may have it if you choose. I choose to opt out of that kind of behavior. And I can't imagine living in a relationship where somebody wanted to manipulate me. You know what that means? If somebody wants to manipulate you, they don't love you for who you are. They love you for who you can become for them. Ew. No, not for me. Thank you very much. KS asked, what is a love language and how to figure out your love language? Okay, so that's a great question. I'm going to go ahead and give you the link. There we go. To the 5 love languages. There's a quiz you can take. So here we go. I'm going to send this to you. And I'm going to put that right up on the screen right there. 5lovelanguages.com. The 5 love languages are, we already talked about touch, words of affirmation, like positive reinforcement via words, gifts, quality time, and acts of service. So my love languages are gifts and quality time. My partner's love languages are touch and words of affirmation. So we don't match there, but both of us are perfectly happy to give to the other what the other needs to feel loved. But if you go to that 5lovelanguages.com, there's a quiz there. You can take it, and that'll give you some insight into, how you receive love in a relationship. Yeah. Ashley says, there's an old adage that states, when the student is ready, the teacher will arrive. I think for me, being linked to this lifestyle is exactly that. Absolutely. And I will sometimes say that the teacher will arrive even when the student's not ready. But the student won't listen, so it doesn't matter. And also, sometimes you're ready and the teacher's nowhere to be seen, and you have to be proactive and go out and find that for yourself. Some couples can be roommates. Sure. Absolutely. I'm talking about relationships. So I'm not necessarily saying love, although that's a big part of how I focus. Friendships are relationships. Families are relationships. Roommates are relationships. Lots and lots of relationships. Okay. So let's talk about trust. Capital TRUST, trust. Now, in 2017, I wrote about trust. I said, I can count, trust to me means I can count on this person to meet my needs before their wants, at least while they are with me. They will meet my need to feel safe before their desire to get off. They will meet my need to feel heard before their instinct to defend themselves. They will meet my need to connect on an intimate level before their excitement for physical connection. They will meet my need for the truth, openness, and honesty over their fear of whatever, right? And to get to that point, someone needs to be consistent showing those behaviors to me. This is how I do it over years with minor hiccups, because we're all human. Somebody says something, our knee-jerk reaction is generally to defend ourselves, right? That's a hiccup. But over time, if they constantly defend themselves and even go on the offensive and attack when you're trying to express your needs, that tells you a lot, right? There has to be enough base level trust, enough trust in yourself to survive and thrive, to allow people into your life, and for both of you, because you're not perfect. I'm sure as hell not perfect. So there has to be enough base level trust for you to allow people in your life and for both of you to make mistakes and learn from them together. Right? It's about you. It's about your ability to see the red flags and assess them for yourself, to not second guess yourself, to handle whatever comes your way, and to avoid most of the bad things through honoring your instincts, paying attention to what people show you about themselves, and enforcing healthy boundaries in your life from the beginning. Because you can trust others when you trust you. And you don't have to trust them. You don't have to know them. If you trust you and your ability to handle whatever they can dish out. If you don't trust them, it's up to you to search inside yourself for what you think you can't handle. So you meet somebody new, you go out on a date, you really like them, right? Do you trust them? If you trust yourself to be able to say, hey, I went on a date with this person and I really enjoyed my time with them, but I don't know them. And if they say something hurtful, I didn't know them a week ago. I won't have them in my life a week from now. He's fine, right? It's when you begin to invest yourself in all of these outcomes and ideas and so on and so forth that you fall in love, not with the person, but with the concept, with the story you're painting in your mind. So when they do something, when they set off those alarm bells, when they say something a little bit hurtful, it's way out of proportion and you are hurt by them because you have put too much of yourself into them. You did not honor your boundaries. You did not say, I have only known this person for, 27 hours is when we started talking on Tinder. And now I'm going to, make plans to go away with them for the weekend? I don't know. That might work for some people. It's up to you to set your boundaries and to know what you can handle in any relationship with anyone. Does that make sense? Shoot me a note in the chat. Let me know that you followed along. Let me know if you have any additional questions. Roger says, all too often we can't or won't compromise. I believe most problems can be worked out. I can adapt to almost anything with the exception of cheating. So, Roger, you just hit one of my big buttons right there. Here's the thing. I don't believe in compromise. Yes, I do believe that most problems can be worked out. I don't believe in adapting to almost anything. I don't. I am not interested in adapting to almost anything. Remember, we talked about the sweet spot? What you want, what I want, the sweet spot is in the middle. Adapting to almost anything is not honoring your sweet spot. It's looking to step into somebody else's what they want. And I'm not willing to do that for a relationship that I want to hold ever. It's not my thing. Joey says, is negotiating different than compromise? Absolutely. Compromise is two people giving up, making concessions in order to settle a dispute or a battle. Personally, I believe that once you get to the dispute or the battle part, you've already lost. Negotiating can be compromise. It can lead to compromise. It can lead to manipulation. It can lead to control. Or I like to use the term collaboration. How are you and your partner going to collaborate on creating the most amazing relationship and life you can have together? How are you and the customer service representative on the phone going to collaborate on the problem that you're bringing to them for the best solution for you and the highest number of stars on their feedback report, or the happiest day they can have at work while listening to people be crappy about things that are upsetting them? I much prefer collaboration. Ashley says, this is like the most obvious advice ever, but that hardly anyone is privy to. You know what? That's what I keep saying. But the problem with obvious is that when we're taught the opposite, when we're shown the opposite, when we're modeled the opposite by our family, by our friends, by television, by movies, it's not obvious. And not only is it not obvious, but it's really, really hard to overcome and unpack in ourselves. Really, really hard. So I'm going to end this with that's why I'm writing a book about boundaries, currently titled Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck. And I'm posting it chapter by chapter to get feedback and to hear your questions. And it's also why I'm going to be running the Take No Shit workshop starting October 17th. The link is there in the chat. I've also posted it right there on the screen. Right now, you can get into the Take No Shit workshop for a name your own price between $7 and $27. If you feel that the value is going to be $27, pay that. If you don't feel like you can afford more than $7, pay that. I'll tell you a secret though, it's not going to be that price for long. That's just going to be the first time I'm actually running it through with paying members. So The next time it'll probably go up to 97 because the value for this is huge and will literally change your life. I'm absolutely sure of that. Because again, Ashley, as you said, it's obvious, but not so obvious sometimes. Oh, that's a good question, Joey. How long will it be? It is a 7-week workshop. Each week focuses in on a particular aspect of setting boundaries. So the page that you go to will actually break it down for you week by week. And it'll be, for you, Joey, you're familiar with it. It'll be in a private community set up with forums, and there's a chat in there. And it allows me to put in audio and video and images and the text of all that you need to know, including worksheets to help you learn. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh yeah, so 7 weeks. I realized that I set the lowest name your price at $7. Holy fudge buckets. You're looking at either $1 per week, or the highest price right now is $27 for this first run. That's less than $4 per week. Yeah, you definitely want to join me. And if you're in the Live Right and you want to get into the Take No Shit workshop, use that link. Get yourself signed up. Would love to have you. I really enjoy all of you and the contributions you make to this show. So thank you. Thank you all. Have an amazing day. And join me next Tuesday for, what's the topic? They may be right. No, wait. Didn't I just do they may be right? Oh, yeah. Haha. Learn how to use a calendar, Heather. Next Tuesday we're doing watch out for covert contracts. Yeah, we're going to be talking about covert contracts and how to catch those little suckers and yeet them right the F out of our relationships. Oh, yeah. One last question before, are values caught more than taught? That's a great question. Yes. Do as I say, not as I do is not nearly as powerful as monkey see, monkey do. Love y'all. See you next Tuesday, or hopefully in the Boundaries Live Right, and have a wonderful day.